beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani alongside Michael Lescaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel. Hello and welcome in and good morning to everybody, whether you're viewing here in Hawaii or all the way across the world. Especially a special shout out to our guy Paul Brecht. He said he just texted us before we jumped on air that no pressure, Michael, that we are on the big screen over there at his family home. So they're watching us this morning. So shout out to the Brecht Ohana from Hawaii all the way over there to upstate New York. We appreciate you guys and everyone for tuning in every single Monday, especially live on our YouTube channel. And we're going to have a fun one today. Obviously, it is game week for Hawaii football and Utah State coming into town. Hawaii opening up, at least at our friend Circa Sports, opening up as the 2-point favorite, total set at 59.5. I haven't checked the odds this morning, but Hawaii has opened up as the favorite at Circa Sports. I saw other books as well. I think it was like at 1.5. Hawaii's still the favorite. So we will see how much that money moves throughout the week leading up to Saturday's game. Michael and I will give our initial thoughts on that matchup coming up on this show. We'll also want to get you fired up and pumped up for game week with none other than Chris Brown, Mr. Associate Head Coach and coach of the Linebackers, and of course the head of the Lions Den to get you pumped up and started this Monday morning. So you'll hear my chat with him that I had last week Friday coming up in about 10-15 minutes or so, and that will kind of really get us started with this Hawaii football game week. We'll get into some NFL, college football, and stuff real quick because it was a whole bunch of drunk fests this weekend when it came to the final result and how certain games went. I did, fun fact, and anyone that didn't believe me, I did indeed wake up. I have the Twitter post receipt to prove it. We have receipts Lescaro here. So I do have the receipts to prove it that I was up watching Dillon Gabriel's first NFL start on Sunday morning, 3:30 a.m. Hawaii time. Not the result they wanted. But Dillon, he looked composed. He did his job. He didn't turn over the football. That's always a win when you're a brand new rookie quarterback getting in there, getting your first start. Sometimes especially now traveling to London, all of that stuff. I think Dillon did a pretty good job. Almost passed for a couple 100 yards, got a couple of touchdowns, and he was actually the first quarterback this season to put up or to pass for more than 2 touchdowns against this really solid Vikings defense. So again, Dillon Gabriel having a really, really good looking debut and a bunch of other stuff that happened in the NFL. But Michael, how are we doing this morning? Hello. Oh, press that 1-2 on the top. Top left. There we go.
Okay, well, Paul, I guess I goofed already, so shout out to you, Paul.
I think I set you up for that one.
But yeah, I was not up at 3:30 in the morning, but shout out to Dillon Gabriel, right? Because you got to think too. As a Hawaii boy, he's pretty much playing in a time zone like 12 hours ahead of him. So imagine what he'll do in a normal time zone. So I think that's kind of cool, and I kind of like that his 2 touchdown passes kind of went to the H-back or tight end, in the system because. No, for Dillon Gabriel, I know from high school, like there was a lot of shotgun sets, right? And definitely when he was in his like UCF and Oregon, they're not very pro style offenses. So the fact that he's able to hit some of these checkdowns, these underneath options, right? David Njoku, he's our solid player, but then the other guy he threw it to was like, I don't even know who that guy is. And the fact that Dillon Gabriel is throwing to guys I don't know kind of shows you that hey, he's making it work. So I love that for Dillon Gabriel. But yeah, the NFL has just been weird. I think this week was like a bad week for teams that are contenders all around. I think the Eagles lost because A.J. Brown was trying to defend Devontae Smith on that play. So it's kind of one. I know we have a big game today. I think the Chiefs have been looking good. But yeah, it was kind of a chill weekend. But it kicks off, right? Because we have men's and women's basketball starting up this month, cool, and it's crazy. So we're gonna enjoy it while we can, and we have a packed show today.
Yeah, I'm just happy that even though 2 of my football teams were on bye weeks this week, it was still a very entertaining day in the NFL and in college football. I want to talk about college football just real quick, just because I think we've been very honest and vocal about how much we despise James Franklin, the head coach of Penn State. He's just annoying. He's always whining about stuff. We're going back to this year's media days, and he's like, "Oh, like our media people can't come out here to Vegas and make the trip for our media days." Blah 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 blah. It was very nice, and to see him get beat by Oregon last week, I was already like, "Yes, go Ducks, beat Penn State." Nobody. I don't think anybody had it on their college football bingo card that they would be beaten by UCLA on Saturday, and by a coaching staff that is entirely changed over. And you have like the backstory in Jerry Neuheisel, the offensive coordinator who was given the play calling duties against Penn State by their interim head coach, the son of Rick Neuheisel, who is a former UCLA head coach and was on a CBS broadcast in studio. I think it was CBS. And he's like there was the video of him watching his son get that win. So he's excited. And then like they're carrying Jerry Neuheisel, who is also a former quarterback for UCLA. So it's like this whole UCLA moment. He calls the perfect game, beats Penn State. He gets like lifted up like Rudy and like carried off the field. I mean, and of all teams for them to do it against, it was nice that it was against Penn State. Again, I feel like if there's any team, like I don't even think at this point, because Nick Saban's gone and all that stuff, like I don't despise like Alabama or Georgia and all of that stuff as much as Penn State is annoying as they are, but mainly because they used to be likable. It's just James Franklin has just been the most annoying head coach because of how much he complains. So to see UCLA do that, it was pretty fun for, again, someone that our football team was not in action this past Saturday, but that was a nice little treat that we had on College Football Saturday for sure.
Yeah, well, I think the UCLA winning is kind of goes to show you kind of the things that people love about college football, right? Mm-hmm. And you have now coaches in there that bleed UCLA blue, right? They will wanting to do this for their program, for their alumni. And speaking of bleeding blue, I mean, we got Chris Brown in a couple minutes now. Someone that played for University of Hawaii. It's like there's a lot more pride in it, right? And I think that's one thing that kind of gets lost in the NIL era is that, hey, you just here to cash a check, right? But no, there's been a long-standing tradition, and then UCLA, they win championships, and that's something. I mean, that's across the board for all sports. So for football not to be there, and you can't just keep on losing, right? And they're the talk of the town, talk of the nation. They're not gonna just roll over and die, right? And definitely, Penn State coming over to the West Coast. I mean, the coach was already complaining about going to Vegas. Yeah. Now he's got to go to California. Maybe he has a point. Maybe they like to sleep in. They like to sleep early. Maybe they're in bed by like 8 p.m. I don't know. There is a little something there. But I mean, Nico Iamaleava, he's still good, right? I mean, I know he looked kind of terrible, and definitely his NIL situation kind of turned people off. But he's still a solid quarterback. I mean, he's just an athlete, right? I mean, I think in high school he was a phenomenal volleyball player, right? So, I mean, if volleyball had the same amount of money as football can earn you, then maybe he might have been playing volleyball. But, yeah, great job for UCLA. Not a great job for Cal.
Oh, we just had to put in the Cal thing, and just Paul is viewing this. He doesn't want to. We won't talk about Cal just yet. I want to go back to the NFL again. Another from the drunk UCLA Penn State game to the even more drunk NFL this past weekend. I mean, the scores were all over the place. Good thing I didn't listen to Michael and change my fantasy pick because the Colts just steamrolled the Las Vegas Raiders over the weekend. I said
don't take the Rams.
No, but even when I was like, oh, my pick is the Colts, and you're like,
what? You didn't give me an alternate option, Kuz, so you had to pick the Colts.
There's an alternate option. You can see the games in the schedule. Whatever.
No, but you didn't tell me who you had as your options. Your options was the Rams or the Colts, and I was like, oh, you can't pick the Rams.
No, I said the Colts first, and I was thinking of the Rams. Anyways, point is, I did not get swayed by Michael Liscaro giving me the when I said I would pick the Colts for or Survivor because they steamrolled the Las Vegas Raiders 40-6, and it's just looking worse and worse for the Raiders. Sorry to all of our Raiders fans that I know we have here in Hawaii. The other one obviously was a surprise. Shout out to my spirit animal brother, Kool-Aid McKinstry from the Saints. I kept getting faked out because the announcers were like, Kool-Aid! It's me. So Kool-Aid McKinstry again, like he was just tearing up that Giants offense, and the Saints coming out with a big win at home, their first win at 26-14 over the New York Giants. Sadly, our guy Paul had to suffer through another horrendous Jets loss again, 37-22 to the Dallas Cowboys. Another popular team here in Hawaii, at least, but that was a tough one. I know that hits hard. I know part of the reason why Paul has mentioned that it's tough to watch this team is because it feels like they just give up. And that's always hard. When you get beat by a good team, like when the Jets lost to the Bills, and they put up a fight, you're like, all right, well, we lost to a really good team. But I think that's the frustrating part for Jets fans, is that it just kind of feels like they're blah when they get out there, which is really weird because usually I feel like teams emulate their head coach. And Aaron Glenn seems like that type of fired up type of coach. So I'm not sure what's going on there with the New York Jets. Hopefully they can figure it out for our guy Paul. But starting off the season 0-5. But again, at least they lost to a very popular Dallas Cowboys team and Coach Sheffield. And I know Paul, we're just talking about that last week when we had on Coach Sheff. So hopefully they can get it right sometime during this season. But if not, they can start thinking of who they want to draft at that quarterback position next year.
Well, they've never been the same since that Aaron Glenn dance. And I mean, in the hindsight, I mean, in the moment, that was such a cool moment. That's such a cool gift for Aaron Glenn to have that dance after that. I think the block field goal against the Buccaneers. But at the same time, you're a head coach. You should know the game's not over. Job's not finished. So it kind of, I guess, in the moment, it like, oh yeah, this is such a cool coach, awesome. But at the same time, like now you're looking back, it's like maybe that's not the kind of behavior you want from a head coach. I mean, when the season started, there was like a power rankings from some Twitter account, and it had Aaron Glenn at 32 out of 32. So, I mean, not only I think they have to look at the number one pick coming up that they might potentially get, but they must have to look for a new coach. I mean, I know that sucks for Paul to hear,
already.
And the fam and the Breck family
in the
there.
Towel already for Aaron Glenn. I don't think it's that crazy if you're going to get excited about a big play against a very good team.
Why not? Well, so why not pair a new head coach with a new quarterback? That's my thinking. So yeah, but I mean, if there is a good head coach that pops up, I would take the next head. Here's the thing. Nowadays in this league, people have this thing about wanting a offensive coach as your head coach, right? Because they have better clock management or better time management in some of their decision making. So, I mean, at this point, I would rather tank if I'm the New York Jets. I mean, like I know there's some years where Paul said, I think it was a Trevor Lawrence class where they should have tanked, but they didn't. They could have had Trevor Lawrence, but instead they got Zach Wilson, and that just pushed them back even more. So if I'm the Jets, tank, and tank because
I don't even think they need to try at this point.
Well, because here's the thing for Paul and the Breck family that's watching. How about the goodwill that you have for the University of Hawaii Rainbow Warriors and the goodwill you have for the New York Jets? You just give it all to the Rainbow Warriors, and then that's all the good vibes, right? So that's and then you can have the number one pick, and then the Rainbow Warriors will be in a bowl game and hopefully competing for a Mountain West championship.
So you're saying the first win for the New York Jets will come at the beginning of December when the Rainbow Warriors are technically off as they prepare for their bowl game / maybe a Mountain West championship, though.
No, they're not going to be off because they're going to be practicing, So, and the Jets need to continue to keep on losing because you need that number one pick because that gives you options, right? That gives you the ability to, hey, maybe we need to trade down and get more pieces because it's one thing to have a good quarterback, but if you have a great quarterback with no pieces, then there's only so much that quarterback can do. As we saw on Saturday against Duke with Cal and Jaron Kiawe-Sangamotele, you can have a great quarterback, but if you don't have the pieces, there's not much you can do.
I was mentioning how the weekend was drunk. So before we have to take a break, like that's something going back to that Jets game. I don't know if you saw a highlight of that, Michael. So Justin Fields threw the football. It bonks off the Cowboys defender's helmet in pretty much straight up into the air. And there was one of the defensive linemen that would have been there to catch it. But then the football hits the sky cam, and then but in real time you just see the football almost magically it's up, and then it bounces behind where the Cowboys guys trying to get it, and it goes completely behind, and there's video too of the football coming straight to the sky cam bouncing off. So I think the only more Jetsian thing that could happen is if it bonked off and still landed in the hands of the Cowboys. That probably would have completely showed how this season is going. That was one thing that happened. I think there was even a situation where I forget which kicker it was. There was a kick that it looked like the kick or the football had hit a cable of a Skycam that ultimately sent the football wide right for that field goal. What else is happening? Looking at the score. So hopefully because the Jets lost, maybe Paul takes some solace in the fact that the divisional teams also lost. Well, of course, one had to win because there was one divisional matchup where the New England Patriots came out on top over the Buffalo Bills yesterday, 23-20 in a game that Josh Allen threw the football out of bounds to a fan who was sitting like front row, corner end zone, caught the football that Josh Allen threw and is probably as veteran of a fandom as you can get. The guy hit the football in his jersey and automatically went up the stairs to run out of the stadium before the NFL could take it away. And I love the announcers as they were calling it. They're like, and he's going, and he's up the 5th level, 10th level, 15th level. They were doing play-by-play as this guy with the football was running away with a Josh Allen pass. It was...
Well, I mean,
it was one thing that made it so entertaining.
Gotta give a shout out to Mike Tirico, legend. You know that he's been on multiple. He even called basketball before, but it was a fan wearing a Matt Milano jersey that was following another fan wearing a Josh Allen jersey. So Josh Allen, so talented, right? What can he do? He throws the ball and then he leads block for the guy he threw the ball for. So that was one of the more hilarious moments, but even more hilarious that the Patriots was able to win. But the Patriots is a solid team, right? This is what happens when you have a great coach in Mike Vrabel, and now you have your quarterback in Drake May, and that's why it's you need to have both a good head coach and a good quarterback. So that's why the Jets need to get a new head coach. It'll just be like whoever they have. Antonio Pierce was their former coach. Yeah. Sometimes you have this coach that's just stopgap. You gotta clean it, flush it. I'm sure there's gonna be some coach in the college ranks that wants to get their first gig, or some coach of some offense that needs to be promoted. And
or you could get lucky like the Tennessee Titans. I don't know if anybody saw highlights of that game. It seemed like the Cardinals, it was their game literally to lose, and they did. Titans ended up winning that game 22-21 in Arizona. I think that was the one too in our quick picks. I know that one stuck out because I actually did take the Titans in our quick picks for that home game in Arizona. But if you guys missed it, there were a couple of plays. There was one where the running back Amari Demarcado, he was running open to the end zone. There was one Titans defender that was attempting to punch the ball out but didn't. He dropped the ball itself, and at the same time, when he dropped the ball, he dropped it perfectly where it fumbles out of the end zone. So that was already a taken away touchdown for Arizona. And then there was another instance where Tennessee scored a touchdown off of Cam Ward threw the football, and then it was intercepted. No, it was fumbled. No,
it was intercepted.
It was deflected. Yeah, no, it was deflected because I was like, there's something in between the interception. Threw the football, deflection, Cardinals caught it, fumble, and then nobody can pick it up. It fumbles in the end zone, and then a Titans player lands on it, and then they score a touchdown. I'm like, what is going on this week? And so maybe you need a new head coach to get out wins. Maybe you just need to be lucky, because that was definitely the Tennessee Titans. Arizona, that was their game to lose, and they did. But just need a little sprinkle of luck, and there you go. Tennessee got their first win off of the funkiest mistakes from the Cardinals and the funkiest way to score a touchdown in the NFL.
Well, Arizona fans, I'm sorry, and Tennessee fans, you're welcome, because as a fantasy football owner of Amari Demarcado on my team that's injured as heck, Demarcado, I started whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And I really could use those 6 points.
Yeah.
Because I'm playing the last place team, I'm the last place team at 0-4, but the opponent I'm playing against I've scored 100 more points than him. But I'm gonna lose because Demarcado dropped the ball.
Yep.
So you're I'm sorry, Arizona fans. I started the running back that fumbled, and Tennessee fans, you're welcome. I started the running back that fumbled.
All right, we got to take a break. But when we come back, we are ready to get fired up or let you guys get fired up and hear my chat that I had last week, Friday, with football associate head coach and coach of the Linebackers, Chris Brown. So you'll hear that after this commercial break on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake up in the den with Ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Ulei Agbayani and Michael Liscaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel this and every Monday. So be sure you guys tune in, like, and subscribe. Thank you very much. And as promised, before we went to break, here is my chat that I had this past Friday with Chris Brown. Excited to talk some University of Hawaii football with the one and only associate head coach of your football program and, of course, coach of the Linebackers, Chris Brown. Coach CB, what's up, my brother? How are you? And thank you so much for joining us.
Man. Happy Aloha Friday. Thanks for having me on, Ulei.
Woohoo! We're excited to chat with you. But before we really get into some football, it is the bye week, the first of 3 bye weeks actually this season. But what were maybe some non-football things that you were able to do when you guys got just, a couple of days off?
Well, first of all, the boys got some time off to just get their bodies back, which was great. They got to go to school and catch up on some of their stuff that they missed on the flight, and going up there on the road. But more importantly, just getting their minds back. I think it's just a sanity of going crazy every single day and every single week with football. Now they get to put football on the side, but and then us as coaches, we all got to go out and do different things. Some guys went out to recruit. Me personally, I went to Kahalu and I sat by the ocean, by my grandma's place. I got to just sit and look out in the ocean, get my pole, whip out a little bit, and just enjoy life. Not think about football, even though Coach Timmy was texting me. But no, but it was nice to just reset. And we're back now. We had a really good practice yesterday, a very physical practice today. So I know the boys are excited to get back going again.
Yeah, beautiful. And you're prepping for Utah State. Before we talk a little bit about the Aggies coming in to town, I wanted to go back a little bit, right? Huge win on the road at Air Force.
Yeah.
So describe some of the emotions going on after that game when you guys were able to really get another staple road win. Again, just the third one under Timmy Chang and this coaching staff, but you guys got it. Here we go. Everyone is like, I don't know if Hawaii can win on the road. You beat a very, very high quality, well-coached team in Air Force, in, altitude, all of that stuff. You guys came out with the win. So just kind of describe all the emotions following that win.
Yeah, it's been something that we've been practicing for months now, and the whole thing that we've been really preaching is the mission mindset, and it's that military special forces mindset of being able to go in and get a mission, accomplish the mission and get right back, right? And it doesn't matter where you're at. So I always tell the guys, like, when you look at these special forces, they're in the snow, they're up in the mountains, they're in rivers, they're in the ocean, right? They're all in different places, but the mission is the mission. It shouldn't matter, right? So, really pushing that on them. And we did little things like tweaking certain things to create more discipline. And what I mean by that is, like, everybody had to be at breakfast, dinner at the same time together. They all had to be dressed the same, right? Because we knew that Air Force is the most disciplined football team that we're going to face, and probably top 3 in the country when it comes to discipline. So our whole goal was to out discipline them, so everything we did together, it had a reason. So explaining to them why they're all dressed the same, because individuality doesn't exist anymore on this football team. Everything's about the team. You cannot accomplish the mission by yourself, and we have to do this mission together. Right. So that was the mindset going into there. They were, they challenged each other, and you could hear it all week long about how we're gonna change everybody's mind when it comes to us playing on the road. Especially ourselves. We can win. We're a better team than those guys, but we have to be more disciplined than those guys. Right. And yes, here comes altitude. Right. So my thing to the guys was, altitude is just another word for excuses. Yes. That's all it is. Right. That's all it comes down to. Right. It's all in the mind. Even though the first practice that we had up there, like, I was out of my breath, I was screaming and yelling. I couldn't catch my breath. Altitude is real, by the way. But, what we did the entire week was we simulated, them being out of breath. So we really gassed them in practice. Wednesday was probably the hardest practice we've had all year long. And we did little things like we did burpees, up downs, and we did it constantly. And then they would have to go and execute the play, right? So they were out of breath, and then they would have to go execute the play. The very next thing, do it again. So I literally blew the whistle, 300 times that day. You know what I mean? Like, I blew the whistle up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, over and over and over. But it really opened up their lungs, and I felt that, that helped when we went up on the road. When we got up on the road, the guys, man, they were just in a different mindset, though. Like, they knew they could win this game. They bought into what, Coach Timmy's been talking about, myself has been talking about being disciplined, having that mission mindset. And they really bought into it. And then when it came down to the game, it was like, okay, here we go. And, I told Coach Chang, it's going to be really, really hard to stop these guys defensively, for us to stop their offense. But the offense is going to have to help us with complementary football. And boy, did they, man. What a game that offense had, right? Very proud of them. Very, very proud of how they came back after, what happened, a week ago. But man, they answered, man, everybody on offense. But what it did is it helped the defense too. Usually it's the defense kind of getting this thing going, but now the offense got the defense spark. You know what I mean? And it was awesome to see that we played complimentary football, and shoot, man, we came out of the win at 6,600 feet up in the air.
Woo! And we were joined by associate head coach for UH football, Chris Brown, and of course, coach of the Linebackers. And yeah, I just want to emphasize a couple of the points that you just mentioned there about being disciplined, because if you had told me that you guys would have had less penalty yards than Air Force, like that's something so rare, because to their credit, they are extremely disciplined. And we said that kind of leading up to that game, like, All right, Hawaii needs to limit the penalties because this is a team that doesn't get penalized very often. And that was something that was awesome to see from you guys, being able to really not give them free yardage easily. They had to earn everything. And even to your point as well about the offense needed to help you guys out. And I reminded all of the fans, you guys, because I know some people might have harped on the defense, but hey, this is reminiscent to the glory days of football, because if anybody remembers, Hawaii, it's not like when they played good opponents, they were shutting them out by 10 points or less. It was just the offense was scoring more points than the other team, and the defense would chime in when they can. So it was, again, that was awesome to see for you guys, that the defense did enough, and then the offense, of course, carried it over for the win.
Yeah, if you look at Air Force, like, there's nobody in the country that has been able to stop those guys. And I knew that because they have so much. They've been running this offense for dang 100 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, they're masters at this thing. And and I knew we weren't going to stop them completely. It was impossible. Nobody can. But you can slow them down. You know what I mean? And when it's time to give the ball back, to the offense, if we can get them a fourth down stop or make them punt and give the offense back the ball, that's the key for the offense to go down and get at least 3 out of this thing with the Tokyo toe. You know what I mean? Like, come up with something, and that's exactly what they did. Every chance that they could, they went down there and they scored. But what was the big thing is they kept the defense off the field. You know what I mean? I mean, they held the ball for so long, which is awesome, because you keep the ball out of the hands of Air Force, right? And that's what Air Force does. They just time control. They just keep holding that ball and running and running. And our offense ended up doing that. So it was great to see. And man, yeah, great complimentary football. The offense came to play that day, and I'm very proud of those guys.
Yeah, actually, speaking of that, now with the time of possession, what exactly is the defense doing during the 12 or so minutes in that second quarter, when you're just like, okay,
we had to warm the boys up on the sideline. It was the first time, because usually it's just like, okay, defense ready, and I'm over there with my my snarl looking at Coach Chang, like, come on, man, we just got off the field, but they did a great job at keeping us off, getting our breath back, and shoot, man, there was some of our guys we wanted to rotate a little bit more, but we didn't have to too much, because the offense held the ball and went down and did something with it, scored, or at least gave us a breather.
And we were joined by Coach CB. All right, before we talk about stuff coming up, I do want to go back to a couple of games and talk specifically about some of your linebackers. Mainly, when we talk about the high points of this year, what has it been for you to see in that Fresno State game? Again, not the result we wanted, but still, one of your guys in Jemai Otis got that touchdown. And before that, you had Giovanni Iovino get a touchdown. So what does that mean for you as a coach to see kind of your guys feel what it feels like to almost be on offense and get touchdowns?
It feels great, but all those plays don't happen unless somebody else helps them make that play, right? If Kilinahi Mendiola doesn't, hit that receiver, that ball doesn't bounce up in the air, So it's a full team effort, full defensive effort. If the D-line doesn't put pressure on the quarterback, he doesn't throw that ball. So for me, it just makes me feel good that the whole defense is playing together. And when you play together and you execute well, great things happen. Just so happened 2 of my guys got to score this year. You know what I mean? And that means a lot. G is a kid that, I've known since he was 14 years old. You know what I mean? And I coached him in high school, and the same thing with Jemai. Jemai was 14 when I had him at Bishop Gorman as well. And so I knew these kids for a long time, and to see them, get something like that where you make a touchdown, all your brothers jump with you and celebrate with you. You get to hold up, the war club, the turnover club, and man, it's a great feeling to see those guys just so happy. Because I'm happy when they're happy. You know what I mean? Like, that's all that matters to me, is those guys are happy. But, big plays like that, Fresno State was a really, really, that was a tough opponent, but 64 yards in rushing for a team that, you know what I mean? They average 200 a game. Oh man. You know what I mean? Like, that to me was like, man, you know what I mean? Like, that's deep. That's Hawaii football right there, just rough and tumble. aggressive downhill. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna get the island. You know what I mean? In every single hit. You know, and shoot, man, it was really cool to see. And yeah, you know, it's not the way we wanted it to turn out, but definitely when we walked away, we were like, man, the defense played really, really, really tough football, and I know that brought a lot of pride to our team, in which it showed up on the following week, this past week against Air Force.
Yeah, and we were joined by Chris Brown, associate head coach for UH football and linebackers coach. All right, I wanted to ask you specifically though about some of your top linebackers there, your starters, in Jalen Smith and Jemai Otis, and what you have been impressed by, what they've improved on throughout these first games and almost midway through the season here, and just share a little bit about both of them individually and what you've seen and liked from them this season.
You know, if you put them two together and you watch them both out there, you wouldn't know who is number 11 and who's number 3. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't know the difference because they move the exact same way. You know, speed, tenacity, shooting gaps, you know what I mean, the aggressiveness that they play. The biggest thing for me, though, is the leadership that they bring to the football team, getting everybody lined up. You know, when things aren't right, it's one of those two guys calling up the defense, getting them straight. You know what I mean? And it's the little details, right? Telling the guys, tuck in your shirt, get behind the line. You know what I mean? You know, making sure that everybody gets the calls. And that, to me, is what a true linebacker, aka Lion, is all about, right? It's about being the leader. It's about being the captain, right? And the guy running the show. You know what I mean? And I'm very, very proud at their leadership. But man, they're playing lights out this year. They grade out every single week in the 90s. You know, every single time that I grade them out. Against Stanford, both of them played over 70 snaps. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I've never seen that, you know, since we played, you know what I mean? Like those kind of days, you know, when Timmy was making all those touchdowns, you know, defense back up again. But yeah, you know, I mean, and there's no complaints. They've been able to, you know, keep their body strong. They got banged up, but nothing to keep them out. And man, they're just playing lights out this year. What I love, though, is that they're consistent in the leadership and how they're grading out every week. You know, it's like they might not be getting the stats of 20 tackles, but they're still grading out in the 90s every single game, which shows consistency. And that's what matters on this football team.
Yeah, and like you said, leadership, especially at the linebacker position, that generally tends to be kind of like the natural born leaders of defenses all across all levels of football, right? Even up to the NFL. I mean, I'm a huge Chicago Bears fan because to me, Brian Urlacher was like, I just loved watching him play and be that vocal leader. So it's great to hear you say that about your guys as well. All right, looking ahead to the future, I know we're just getting started in this game prep with Utah State, and there's only so much you can even share with us, of course, because, you know, we have millions of people that listen to the show, so we don't want to give away any trade secrets or anything. And especially when you come in, they're going to definitely listen, so they're going to be in tune. So there's only so much you can give us. I understand that, as we are joined by Coach CB from the UH football program, but you know, Utah State coming in, technically a new head coach at Utah State, but you guys played spoiler to him when he was the coach of New Mexico to end last season, knocked them out of a bowl contention. But what is the early outlook about this Utah State coming in, who is consistently a quality football team and put up a similar score against Air Force as well?
Good. They're a really good football team. You know, they execute well. They've got a really good quarterback, got a strong arm. You can tell that they're coached really well because what they do on every given snap, they do it with tenacity, and they also do it with purpose. You know, so you can see that they are going to be very successful. They're a really good football team. I'm not going to lie. I can't sugarcoat anything about it, man. It's going to be a really tough game for us. You know, we're going to have to execute. We are going to have to beat them in the discipline area again. The great thing is that you know, last year they did one on us, you know, and it was such an exciting environment when we went up there last year with the snow and everything, and I thought the boys were ready, but when it came down to it, they executed better than we did. And now, you know, we get them at our house, you know, so now we know, you know, what this game means to us. And we treat every game like the same way. But here's the truth, you know, that was embarrassing last year. It was very embarrassing, and we're not going to be that team this year. So we're excited about this challenge. We're happy about the bye to get a lot of the bodies back, for our guys to get healed up. But yeah, they execute really well, defensively, very aggressive, very tough. Their head coach, man, everywhere he's gone, man, it's tough football, and I respect that about that guy. And then on offense, that quarterback, you can tell like he's they come from a tough background because he loves to run the ball and he doesn't shy away from physicality. That guy would just dip his head on anybody, a D lineman, a safety, and he's a bigger guy. So yeah, we're up for the challenge, man. It's a good team coming in, but we're excited to get them in our backyard now.
I was going to say, if there's anything with our defense, we know they ball out even more so when they're in front of the home crowd here.
Yeah.
Going back to, I just thought of this and I was curious because we know you've told the story before about when you and Timmy used to play together and at practices, you guys would give him a very, very hard time. So now I'm kind of curious, has any of that kind of smack talk and relationship developed at practice between your linebackers now and Micah Alejado in QB1 position? Or?
Oh, yeah. No, it's so good. It's so good because, Micah, that guy, he's quiet, but then he's a good smack talker, and our guys like to get in his head, call him Golden Boy and all this stuff. You know what I mean? And especially when he throws a pick, oh man, he's going to hear it, not just from the guys that are on the field, but he's going to hear it from everybody on the sideline too. But, it's no different than what, Timmy and I were when we played. You know what I mean? It's that good brotherly love and that good competition. We knew back then to this day, Timmy he was the guy. He had that special arm, and we were a rough and tumble defense. Some tough guys on that defense, but we all knew at the end of the day, we ever get into it at a bar, I'm protecting Timmy. You know what I mean? Like that's my brother for life. No different than what's happening now. It's just a full circle now. The defense. They will get Micah's back to the very end. And it's really exciting. What's also good is that he's from Bishop Gorman, and you got like Jemai Otis,
True.
Elijah Palmer, right? So they've been smack talking for years, you know what I mean? So that one, it just continues on, right? But no, it's really cool to see in practice. But at the end of the day, they're all brothers.
That's when I know it would never get released, but that's when I wish we could have like the mic'd up segment just to hear all of the smack talking. It's only a dream. Maybe we can just do it internally, but I know Hawaii Athletics, they do mic'd up sometimes, but I'm sure it's nowhere close to being PC that we wouldn't be able to hear it.
Yeah. It's actually really funny.
Maybe we can chat off air about that stuff. Too. All right, CB. I don't want to take up too much of your time again. Appreciate you for hanging out with us, and
thanks for having me.
As if we couldn't, I'm sure people already listening to this or watching it are already fired up. I'm fired up with everything you just said so far. But being that this will air on the morning show anyways on Monday, so it would be officially game week with Utah State coming into town on Saturday. Give us your coach speak and get the fans fired up for first thing game week, first thing Monday morning.
Well, first of all, I'm going to put this on, okay, just so you know what I'm talking about right here. Do you know what this is, Kool-Aid?
I forget
this
what
is
it's
the Warriors helmet right here. Chief of War right here. We are getting ready, guys. Hey, this team is fired up. They're excited. There's a new fire that is lit underneath these guys, and we have to hold them back in practice because these guys are going at it. Their mindset is in a whole different place. They got this one out the way with Air Force, and they smelt that blood, and they know that it's right in front of them every single game. We're going to go one game at a time. We're up for this challenge that's coming up, against Utah State. But I'm really excited to see these guys take off this week and take this thing to a whole different level. Offense, you see them clicking during practice, and defense is on fire right now. And it's going to be really exciting, come Utah State.
There we go. Let's get fired up. Well, Chris Brown, thank you for taking the time to join us and getting us all fired up today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kool-Aid.
Woo. If you guys aren't fired up from that, then I don't know what to tell you. But that was my conversation I had last week, Friday, with UH Football Associate Head Coach and Coach of the Linebackers, Chris Brown. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Stuck in traffic? Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani and Michael Lescaro on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel. Thank you guys for hanging out with us this and every weekday morning from 8 to 10 on either your regular radio dial or online or listening on demand wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, every Monday right here on YouTube. Thank you for viewing and liking and subscribing. Be sure you can chime in on the live chat or you can text us at 808 888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. Mahalo to Coach Chris Brown, the UH football associate head coach and coach of the Linebackers, for joining me last week Friday. I was happy I was able to get him like right as the bye week was coming to an end, because usually during game weeks, as you guys know, they're only made available for those media scrums, which fortunately our Michael Lescaro can get out there, and he'll be able to get out there tomorrow. At first we didn't think so, but because of a playoff baseball happening right now, we will only be with you for the first hour tomorrow morning from 8 to 9, and then from 9 o'clock we will send you straight into Seattle Mariners pre-game to get you started or get you amped up that morning for Mariners baseball, hoping to be able to escape the Tigers over there. But All right. We'll talk some more football to start off hour number 2 and get Michael and I's, initial takes on this matchup with Utah State coming into town this week. But I did want to at least chat a little bit as this first hour ends about the Rainbow Wahine volleyball team. Again, they were on the road to come back home this week to continue Big West Conference play, hosting Cal Poly this Friday and UC Santa Barbara this Sunday. 2 of the top teams in the Big West. It's going to be a daunting task. But before we kind of get into that stuff, looking back at what happened this weekend as they went on the road for the first time in the Big West Conference slate, playing CSU Bakersfield last week Friday, came out with a 4-set win against the Roadrunners, but then got swept by CSUN the next day. As something that Paul and I were kind of chatting about last week Friday, with Shalay Reed being a little banged up. She was not in action. She was off of the playing time against Bakersfield, and Hawaii still was able to come out with that win because we mentioned Bakersfield, not exactly the scariest team in the Big West so far, but that Saturday game was just a tough one against CSUN. Shalay Reed did come back in to play against CSUN, so they're obviously tweaking the lineups here and there. She didn't have exactly her best game. I think one thing that stood out to me and is of some concern, as I don't know if you got a chance, Michael, to read star advertiser Billy Hall's write-up and recap of that CSUN game, but Coach Robin Amo, it says in here that she, quote, said about watching the CSUN sweep the Rainbow Wahine, saying, quote, there was just no fight, and that there was just no fight in that game after coming off, again, that 4-set win the night before. She also goes on to say, we're 2-2 in the Big West. We've got to make sure that we at least make the tournament. Also continuing some quotes from Robin Almo. Again, this is via Billy's write-up in the Star Advertiser and staradvertiser.com, saying, quote, I say this all the time. We always try to muscle through instead of being smart. CSUN was so much more disciplined than us. That's us this year. We're disciplined one game and then not in the other. So again, it's just trying to figure things out. Again, we will put a lot of emphasis on the fact that they are without their outsides, some of their top 2 outsides in Tally Hakas and Stella Ademi for the rest of the season. And then Shalay Reed obviously being banged up and them still trying to figure out different looks, the setter position still as well. So coming into the season, we already know there was a lot to figure out. You lose all of those injuries, and then, again, that was probably the quote that stood out to me the most, is just not having that fight. Because I feel like when we talk about Paul's Jets, the least you can do is just show some fight in you. So I hope that somehow, some way, they can at least continue to find those fights, and they're going to need it this weekend, especially with the top 2 teams in the Big West coming into town.
Well, yeah, that season match, I mean, definitely, when you look at the blocking numbers, I mean, I think they got outblocked 13-2, which is, I mean, this is probably one of the better blocking teams in a while. So for the block not to show up against CSUN, that's kind of alarming. But I question whether or not Shalay should have played in that second match. I get it that this is one of their tougher matches, but the energy and the vibe in that Bakersfield match, there's a lot more happy smiles in the court, right? Tyler Reese-Monte got to be in the game. Raven Dash got to be in the game. They both had 9 kills. Maddie Way. Maddie Way is phenomenal. You can't leave her off the court. I mean, I know we have Brie Gunderson, but in that Bakersfield match, there's just definitely a lot more happiness, more vibes, right? And then for Shalay, your top pin hitter in a true 5-1 offense, you need her healthy for the rest of the season. So I probably wouldn't have played her in that match, right? I mean, I think Brie Gunderson also played, but it's a little hard of a turnaround when you play one style with this lineup the day before. You have to travel. I mean, I'm not too sure how far Bakersfield is from Northridge, but you do have to make that trek, right? And then now you got a new lineup in. It's not gonna drive right away. And even, I mean, I know they was running a 6-2 at the start of the season match, and they were competitive. That third set, they went back to a 5-1, and they just kind of fell apart, right? And that's where I think Coach Robin's saying was there's no fight. And I think part of the job of the coaches is to figure out what lineups click and what lineups work where there is that fight, right? I mean, Adriana Arquette, and I think I can't remember what match it was when they were at home where she had that match winning ace, right? She had a triple double in that game. In this the Bakersfield match on Friday night, she had a triple double in that game as well. And I mean, I know she is that setter that with the physical attributes that Robin wants to run her 5-1 offense, but the way this team is, the 6-2 is the way to go. And I think until the coaching staff realizes that and choose to go in that full stop, we're gonna see some of that issues, right? Because I mean, Adri, she's still growing as a setter, right? There's some parts where her sets are off placement, right? And definitely when you have a setter that has to run the offense, I mean, it's pretty much. I mean, honestly, a setter and a 5 on offense, definitely when you get into like the 5 setters, like that's a lot. You compare that to a quarterback, like that's a lot of reps and mental decisions that they're gonna have to be making. So I think her getting involved in the offense as a hitter kind of benefits her, right? And then Audrey Hollis, right? She was one of your transfers. She came in. I forgot what school she transferred in from, but she definitely wants to play. She's also got some height, so you might as well utilize that while you can. So, yeah, I think the 6-2 is the way to go. I think the 5 on offense, it's not going to work. I think you're going to see some, because the thing too, in a 5 on offense, you need your setter to be the captain on the floor. And Adri is kind of one of those lead by example and not the vocal leader. Her demeanor, like she doesn't really get excited too much, right? So I think like if she's getting frustrated, you can probably kind of see, and she's not the vocal type. So I think this 6-2 is what they need to be running, because that they were so happy on the court, like they were generally smiling, and that CSUN match, it just wasn't it just wasn't there, and that's kind of sad, because I mean they were siding out, but like they were able to get points in bunches, right? Mm-hmm. And like we know the saying in women's sports, right? If you feel good, you play good, right? And something's just not working in that 5-1, and I think the coaches but again, go out and support them because they have some big competition coming up this week. But yeah, I think the 6-2 is the way to go for this squad.
Yeah, and again, it was more so that third set too against CSUN. The first couple of sets in that sweep, 25-21 apiece in sets 1 and 2, and then that third set, as Robin mentioned, just kind of losing that fight, losing that third set 25-12. Right before we go to break, I want to make sure I mention that Coach Robin talked about now it's just making the tournament. It's the top 6 right now. If the season were to end today, again, it's super early, so it's way too early to tell. But Hawaii would be out because they would be at the 7. At the top of the Big West, at undefeated are Long Beach State and UC Davis, and then Santa Barbara at 3-1, one of the schools coming in, and Cal Poly at 2-2, followed by CSUN and UC San Diego, and then Hawaii. But as we mentioned last week, UC Santa Barbara and Cal Poly, when they played CSUN and Bakersfield, I believe between CSUN and Bakersfield were only to take 1 set in total against those two teams. I think CSUN only won 1 set. So just kind of showing the competition level coming in this weekend. All right, going to take a break. We'll be back to talk some UH and Utah State football on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani alongside Michael Liscaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and right now streaming live on our YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in and hanging out with us this and every weekday morning or every single Monday on our YouTube live stream, or watching or listening on demand on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate you guys, and you guys can continue to chime in on the live chat. I know there's a lot of conversation about different quarterbacks and coaches and a lot of stuff going on. Paul Brecht's made an appearance in the chat as well, and Michael Liscaro doing double duty, sitting here talking story on the radio and then also appearing on the live chat. So there is some action this morning, but you can chime in there or you can text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481 if you want to get in on the conversation. Coming up in this hour, we will get to some UH football talk in just a little bit. Then we'll get into some high school football and maybe a little bit more of NFL, talk about the Monday night football game happening tonight. We will also talk a little bit more. We mentioned it slightly in the first hour about Dylan Gabriel's performance, the first start of his NFL career in hour number 1. But I do want to kind of elaborate a little bit more on that. And we'll also hear a little snippet of what he had to say in that post game following that loss to the Vikings. But still, nonetheless, a very solid performance, in my opinion, from Dylan Gabriel for his first NFL start. So again, a lot more to come up in hour number 2. But yes, let's get into some Rainbow Warrior football with Utah State coming into town this weekend. And the Aggies, we heard from Chris Brown in hour number 1 telling us that, hey, this is a very, very good football team coming into town, and they want to redeem themselves from last year. In case you guys forget, and I know a lot of fans want to forget, and the team definitely wants to forget, Hawaii went to Utah State last year and just got their Okoles handed to them. 55-10 loss in Logan last year. But part of that, and just like CB said, you don't want to make excuses in the fact that, oh, it's cold in November in Utah. Again, this was the second to the last game of the regular season for UH. And but Hawaii just, they have difficulties playing and when it's really cold. And then obviously playing on the road. Luckily, they were able to shake that off against Air Force, at least in terms of getting a good road win against a quality road opponent. But you definitely want to redeem yourselves now with Utah State coming into town this Saturday, and the rest of the schedule shaking up in terms of just timing and locations of the opponents. I still think it's a little too early to really make sense of what each team in the Mountain West is so far, because the Mountain West season is just getting started, and you can kind of look at some common opponents and some other opponents that they played. But for the most part, you're just going to go with precedent, and Utah State is a very, very quality team coming into town. Again, smackdown last year, 55-10. New head coach, however, but at the same time, not so new, because to remind you guys, Bronco Mendenhall is the head coach for the Aggies, and he was the head coach of New Mexico last year, with New Mexico coming into town, Hawaii playing spoiler to their bowl bid, and that was the Micah Alihado coming out game, able to beat New Mexico 38-30 to finish off the regular season. So I'm sure Coach Mendenhall, at least he's familiar with this Hawaii team and how difficult it is to play Hawaii here at home. So he already knows what to expect. I know he's giving this Hawaii squad and all of you fans that show up and show out a lot of the respect that they deserve for just how much of a home field advantage Hawaii has. And then vice versa, when we talk to Chris Brown, by all accounts, the Rainbow Warriors, even though, again, somewhat of a new head coach, giving the respect that Utah State deserves because they have been a top tier program in the Mountain West for a very, very long time, and we're able to just put a smackdown on the Rainbow Warriors. I can't even think of a nice way to say it, because that's what it was. Put a smackdown on the Rainbow Warriors last week. However, the odds makers seem to think that Hawaii could be the one to come out with the win in this. Hawaii is your 2.5-point favorite still. I'm looking at the odds right now. Odds via BetMGM. Hawaii, the 2.5-point favorite against Utah State. Total set at 58.5. So got a pretty decent total there. That's by all accounts, if it hits the over, it's indicating a very fun game. Hopefully, a fun game on the side of Hawaii. Utah State plus 105 on the money line. Hawaii at minus 125. So, just got to take care of business, Michael. What is your early outlook for this Utah State team coming in?
Well, this is definitely where, in the offseason and in the summer and in training camp where Timmy Chang said, wanting a player-led team, this is where your leaders have to step up, right? Because this is a match where I feel like Hawaii is going to need to score 30 points to win this game. And how we get to 30 points, that's going to determine on how Hawaii looks from the jump, right? Again, when they start fast, they look good, right? Sam Houston, they scored 37 points. I think offense put up like how many touchdowns, right? But like we got a touchdown on our opening drive against Sam Houston State. And then what is the result? We score in the 30s. Against Air Force, we get a touchdown on the opening drive. What is the result? We score in the 40s. So how this game goes and whether or not it goes in Hawaii's favor, it's going to come down to that first possession, right? If Hawaii gets on the board early, that's going to dictate how this game is going to go. And again, going back to the player-led team and how this team looked against Utah State last year on the road, right? In that game against Utah State, I don't think they had the right mindset at the start of the game, right? I mean, we saw pictures from the Hawaii Athletics or Hawaii football account where you had some players, they were dressed in their shirts in pregame in the snow, right? And trying to show that the cold didn't bother them anyways, right? Yeah. Like frozen. But that's great. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's aura farming, right? Because the results is the result, right? And that was like the worst loss we've seen. Like there was genuine questions on what was going to happen after that game. I mean, of course we had some administrative stuff going on too during that. So, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so now you need your leaders on this team to step up and lead this team because this team has the potential to push for a Mountain West championship, right? I mean, heck, they should have beat Fresno State, but they're going to need to come together and put stuff together because this Utah State team, they definitely have this game scheduled, circled on their calendar. I know Bronco Mendenhall does because they were supposed to make a bowl game last year, but Michael Alejado and company, Abdul Devin Dampier, who's not Utah, and we sent them packing. We sent them home, and we sent off our seniors on a good note. So Bronco Mendenhall definitely has this game circled, and Timmy Chang should definitely have this game circled too because he's been able to check off some boxes this last year and this year, right? The first one would be winning on national TV. We got that against Stanford, which needed everybody to step up to get Hawaii that win. And then now we got a big win on the road against Air Force. Outside of, I reckon Nevada and California is a warm state. Colorado's not a warm state, but they got a win against Air Force in Colorado Springs. That's another check mark in Timmy Chang's book. Now he needs to go out and get some wins against Mountain West opponents that have a winning record, right? Teams that are doing well because we're doing a solid job in beating the teams we should beat. But now we need to, if we want to push for a championship or be in those conversations, we need to beat teams that are good. And that's the mark of a solid team. But yeah, it's going to be one. Timmy Chang and his crew is always good at home. So I guess that's why Hawaii is favored. Utah State, both their losses have come on the road. So you kind of look at that as, okay, Hawaii will give them the slight edge here after that game against Air Force. And they are coming off a bye week at home.
Yeah, and both of the teams, too, are coming off a bye week. So both teams rested, potentially healed up. That's another thing to take into account as well. And yeah, Utah State coming over here and like Michael said, like just having a couple of those losses on the road. Their only common opponent, we talked about this last week, is that Air Force squad. And both games have similar ending scores. So there's not too much. It seems like either evenly match Utah State coming out with that win against Air Force as well, just like Hawaii. So it seems like coming into town, evenly matched teams and Hawaii getting that extra little advantage as they always do here playing at home. And we mentioned this before. If Utah State can get over this hump, the schedule looks somewhat favorable for Hawaii in terms of what we've seen because after this, they go on the road to play Colorado State. Colorado State has been shockingly bad this year. They've just have been losing. And again, nothing matters until you play each other. But sometimes you can take a little bit away on games that they have already played. San Jose State as well. Like I think they are still a top team in the Mountain West, and I don't take anything away from what especially Craig Stutzman can do offensively. But it seems like our defense, just like in our conversation with Chris Brown in hour number 1, it seems like as if they couldn't be any more motivated or disciplined. It seems like they have found that, right? Like that Air Force game, I think, made them realize, because it was a good callback by you with the aura farming at Utah State last year, where it doesn't feel like this team this year will do anything like that. I hope, because it seems like the mentality is a bit more disciplined this year, because from the coaches all the way down to the players, like, they don't want to be the bottom of the Mountain West anymore, right? And of course, with the coaches, they're continually having to coach now at this point in year 4, because again, year 1, I feel like was a wash. And this is almost like the traditional year 3 when the programs are supposed to turn around when you have a change of head coach. That's what we're in now. These coaches need to realize, like, and they do realize, like, hey, we're essentially coming down to the wire where we want a coach to continue to be here and bring this glory that we've been talking about back here to Hawaii. And we're that close. Like you said, we should have won against Fresno State. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. At least we were able to keep it close. Micah Alejado, I still think up until this point, that was the best defense he's going to see for the rest of this Mountain West schedule. So to keep it even that close and put up that many points against Fresno State, I think says a lot. And Coach CB said it. Sometimes, especially when you have a solid kicker like we do in Kansei Matsuzawa, that gives you a little bit more hope that you can walk away with at least 3 points the majority of your drives, because you don't need to get to like the 20-yard mark to be confident in your kicker, especially here at home where we've seen him hit stuff really hard. And when it's like drizzling and everything, when the wind is acting all crazy, when it's our time to kick though, Manoa missed everything. Make sure it's good when Kansei is out there, because I think it'll take a lot, right? Hawaii needs to take what they can get, and I agree with you where if they score first, that's going to definitely work in Hawaii's favor. But again, just to remind everybody on what's coming up on the schedule, Utah State this Saturday, as we know, 6:00 p.m., and you can watch it on Spectrum Sports on Spectrum or Hawaiian Telcom. Thank you again for everyone that made that free for everyone, and a lot of places along the West Coast and all parts in between. Next week, Hawaii goes on the road, 2 games on the road, back-to-back in Colorado State and San Jose State, and then hosting San Diego State, which at least by then we will start to kind of figure out, at least from opponent-wise, the San Diego State team, because me and Paul were having this text conversation yesterday. Like, I don't know what to take of the San Diego State team up until this point so far, just based on how they've done against their opponents, because they smacked Cal, but then they only put up 6 against Northern Illinois, who is a quality team. But you look at the Northern Illinois schedule and you're like, they didn't really have any major wins or losses. But maybe by then we'll be able to see, when the Mountain West season goes further, what this San Diego State team is. And then, as we know, go to UNLV. And then that would be awesome if that almost is like a vying for a top 3 spot. We're being optimistic here. Vying for a top 3 spot in the Mountain West at UNLV. They are technically at the top of the conference, along with Fresno State, being that they've only played like 2-1 game in the Mountain West. But nonetheless,
I don't want to get too ahead though. I mean, for us as fans, it's nice to think, but like, I look at this Utah State game as kind of the Stanford game, right? We're starting the second half of the season. Stanford game is pretty much, the season will be dictated on the Stanford game, right? If we lost to Stanford, totally different vibe with this team, totally different story. But we beat Stanford, that bring us to having a 4-2 start. Now we have Utah State, right? If we can get a win, we're at 5-2, and now we have bigger aspirations. But if we get a loss, then you go on the road. What's to say that we might be 4-4. So it can go either way. So they just need to, again, start fast and start strong, because this is a Utah State team that doesn't really turn over the ball, right? I mean, their quarterback Bryson Barnes, he is a threat. He's only thrown 1 interception, which is probably in their biggest blowout win. So he just nonchalantly, right? He threw it against McNeese, who's a basketball school. But this is a Utah State team. They've kind of got better in their pass protection.
Volleyball school too.
Probably too, yeah. But they got better in their pass protections, because in their first 2 games, their quarterback was sacked 6 times in both games. So if we can get an early lead, that activates our pass rush, that activates Dennis Thurman to do his thing. Because I know Dennis Thurman wants to kind of get back, because they came in when Bronco Mendenhall came in. He kind of almost got them scoring up there. So it literally is going to determine on that first couple possessions how the vibe is going to go. If we are kind of up early, that sets us up well. If not, that then it gets a little close. It gets a little tight. But either way, Hawaii needs to figure out how to get this win because this is really gonna dictate the rest of the season.
Yeah, I am really curious on how the type of defense Utah State is going to come in here with it being that, with Bronco Mendenhall, because he didn't really have any prep, right, on Micah Alihado last year against New Mexico, right, because Micah had only played a little bit in that Utah State game and then started that New Mexico game, his first start. And then there was really not much to prep if you're New Mexico's end for Micah and his talents and all of that stuff. So now that they have that film on top of the film that they have this season, it's going to be very interesting to see what their defensive plan is to try to slow down this Hawaii offense. I mean, maybe we'll get Nick Senecal back this week as well. That would be a good thing for this Hawaii offense. And not to take away anything that some of the other receivers have been doing, like your guy Tama Uliata, Blaze Kamoku. I know they've been really, really stepping up. But if you can add that one more piece on top of what Jackson Harris has been able to do as well, I mean, this is going to be I think this is just going to be a fun game, a fast game, hopefully. If it's anything like that New Mexico game, that final 38-30 score, obviously that's way over the total, and that's going to be a lot of fun for Hawaii fans. So make sure you guys come out to the Clarence C.C. Chain Complex to cheer on the Rainbow Warriors and get loud on third down. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to switch over to some high school football, get you caught up with some of the standings in the OIA, and let you and give a brief recap of the game that we covered last week, Friday, between Waialua and McKinley. Don't go anywhere. This is Wake Up in the Den on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. Who does
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani and Michael Liscaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel. Or you guys can always watch or listen on demand wherever you get your podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in this and every weekday morning from 8 to 10. All right, I want to give a quick shout out because we didn't really talk baseball yet today, but we do have a Mariners fan in the YouTube live chat. Shout out to Joey. Yes, he says he's saying go Mariners. You guys are welcome to join the wagon if you want to. I will not join the Mariners wagon yet because my Chicago Cubs are still in it as well, playing over on the NL side. But I had mentioned this when I was having that chat with Andy Archer last week that if and probably when, because the Brewers are really, really good, the Cubs get knocked out, I will be jumping on the Mariners wagon and we'll be rooting for them to go all the way and win the World Series. But the Tigers, they're giving them a hard time, though. But yes, shout out to Joey. And for all of you guys, you can listen to the Seattle Mariners right here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, terrestrial radio only for streaming rights purposes. But yeah, shout out to him, and hopefully the Mariners will come out on top.
Well, that's a good segue, Ku, because you got to talk about our little behind the scenes, sweating our pants off before our game that we broadcasted on Saturday, Ku.
Were you? It wasn't. Weren't sweating that much.
Well, we the Mariners game was an extra innings.
Oh,
right?
That's what you meant. Yeah.
So, Kuya, I mean, you were behind the board. There's a little magic. I mean, the Mariners game was an extra innings, and we had a game that was starting at 6 p.m.
Yeah, that was. You're right. I'm glad you called that back, because it was like as if there was anything to define impeccable timing, especially when baseball can. You never know when baseball is going to end. Thank you, Seattle, for making our transition perfect, because we didn't have a pregame show, and apologies for not having a postgame show for our Mariners listeners that were tuning in. But at least we didn't cut out, and we will never cut out of the end of the actual play-by-play game action. That is a sports radio or 101 that you never cut out, especially when the game is down to the wire, which it was for the Mariners and Tigers in that one. So yes, the game ended like right at 6 o'clock, and luckily the game start at Roosevelt was kind of going a little long, and we were timing it perfectly, and just were able to switch it over right in time, right as like the national anthem was going, and then I played some commercials and then kicked it to Chaz and Kyle for us to get right into the Waialua and McKinley game, in which Waialua did play spoiler, though, to McKinley's homecoming, 33-14, the Bulldogs on top of the Tigers. And before we kind of talk a little bit more about that game and get Michael's takeaways, especially since he was there, and I can only take away so much when I'm just listening to it from here in the studio. Let's see. We'll start with their head coach for Waialua, Gary Wirtz, and what he had to say with joining our Michael Esquero post-game after that win.
Coach Gary, you guys needed this win to at least stay alive in the playoffs. You guys get it done. I know it was kind of ugly in the beginning, and they kind of got exciting, but it's never easy to win on the road. So just talk about the job the boys did.
They didn't quit. They started to get full of themselves there at the end. Like you said, it was a sloppy beginning. We got control. And then we started to lose control, but we dialed it back in, was able to lock back in, and luckily get the win.
And it seems like you guys are definitely mindful of that. You guys need to win out to get to the playoffs, right? I mean, I know Jace had that big game, but then you guys kind of took him out from offense and kind of focused on him on defense, so you guys rest them.
Yeah.
Talk about kind of the difficulties and the trials, and you guys kind of have to manage the bodies here at Waialua.
Yeah, we've always been small numbers. We know everybody's going to go two ways, so we try to limit their reps best we can. But sometimes they just got to man up and go. But we still got to try to manage that and know when we can put in guys and rotate. So we just got to be mindful of that. Yeah, it's a tough task.
What can you say about your QB? Because I mean, I feel like even though he's small in stature, he's not the best QB prototypical size.
Heart, straight heart.
I mean, his cadence game, and then especially that touchdown run to pretty much kind of like, okay, we're okay.
Yeah, heart, straight heart with him. He's smart. He's a senior. He's been doing this for 4 years, playing flag his whole life. And then flag does translate a little bit to the tackle side, but he's smart. He's dialed in. I love the kid. He plays with so much heart. He leaves it all on the field.
And then the defense, I mean, I think they had 3 takeaways in that first half. I don't know how much they had total, but the defense definitely came to play.
Yeah, they stepped up. Hats off to McKinley. They're a solid squad, but we were prepared, and defense was dialed in, locked in, did their job, and that was the main thing. They did their job, trusted their brother was going to do their job, and we execute.
That was Waialua football head coach Gary Wirtz with our Michael Esquero. Now let's go over and hear what Jace Apau had to say, the running back / linebacker for Waialua and our Fun Factory VIP of the game.
All right, Jace, congrats on this win. You guys needed this win to stay alive in the playoff push. Talk about the boys getting it done tonight.
First of all, I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But, it's simple mistakes to it. Tough win. They played hard. but we still got more things to work on. Penalties, all that cost us the game almost. Just gonna keep pushing. We're almost there.
I know McKinley kind of made it a game in the fourth quarter, but you scored 3 touchdowns before that fourth quarter, and you guys were up 26-0. Talk about your game because you had 3 touchdowns.
I just want to thanks to the O-line. Big props to them. Without them, I don't know. Those 3 touchdowns wouldn't be there. That's it.
And then talk about the defense because the defense came to play definitely in the 3 quarters. Yeah, they got like a couple picks, couple fumbles. Talk about the defense.
Our defense is solid. Practice every day. Defense is like our first thing, our first the kind priority. Like we want our defense to stop the offense for our offense to score.
You guys had a pretty tough start to the season, right? Couple losses. But how did the team stay together to make sure that you guys don't fall apart?
We just came together, bonded like a team. Everybody talked to each other. It's my last year. Hey, do it for us. Do it for the seniors. Keep pushing. Hey, playoffs are still in hand. And we see Castle, we get Castle next week. Oh, that's going to be a game, I think.
Yeah. You mentioned you're a senior, right? Last year, you guys had to do a coin flip to get to the playoffs. You guys didn't win the coin flip. So right now, you guys going to have control of your own destiny. How much does last year's, not making the playoffs motivate you guys?
Hey, we was pretty mad. We had a decent team, But, hey, we want to get our get back, make it playoffs and win every game.
And that was Wailua football running back / linebacker Jace Apau. And our Fun Factory VIP of the game from that game between Waialua and McKinley last week, Friday, that you heard here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. Waialua coming out on top 33-14. And taking a look at the standings, as we were talking about, or as you heard from Jace, that they have a big game set for against Castle, again in Division 2 with playoff implications. And they are sitting behind Castle right now at 2-3, and Castle at 3-2. At the top, you've got Roosevelt sitting undefeated on Division 2, Kalahale and Pearl City at 4-1. On the OIA, or in the OIA Open, you have Mililani and Kahuku undefeated at the top, and in Division 1, Waipahu continues their winning ways, sitting undefeated in league play, followed closely behind with Kailua and Waianae. So, Michael, heading into this final stretch of the OIA regular season for football, again, just a few weeks left until we head into the playoffs at the end of October / November. What is kind of the outlook? First, is this kind of, I know Kyle and Chaz were mentioning it on the broadcast, and you as well, is that this is essentially Waialua's game to lose against Castle, and having that implication for the playoffs for them. What is kind of your outlook now heading into this final stretch for the OIA? And we'll start first with this Waialua Castle game coming up and the Division 2, and then moving into the Open and Division 1 in the OIA.
Yeah, for Wailua, they want to make the playoffs, right? Last year, there was a 3-way tie for 4th place, and they had to do a coin flip where Kalaheo got into the last spot. But Wailua, they were pretty much probably should have been a playoff team. I think they lost to some of the top teams by 2 points, where those 2 points go the other way, and Wailua is in the playoffs. So I don't think this Wailua team is as strong as last year's team, but they do have a solid quarterback in Emery Abila. He pretty much iced the game for Wailua. It looked like McKinley was going to make a comeback, and I was kind of getting nervous because I was like, okay, I got enough video, I got enough photos of Wailua. It looks like they're going to win. And then next thing you know, McKinley scores 2 touchdowns. They made it 26-14, and it was 3rd down. They were kind of pumped, but Emery Abila, I think he had a 61-yard scramble to the house. He probably got free from 5 defenders, so that kind of iced the game. But you kind of see the strategy and the tactics in Division 2 when you don't have the roster depth, right? When players are going both ways, right? Jason Powell, he had 3 rushing touchdowns through 3 quarters, but they rested him in the 4th quarter from offense. They had him playing defense because you don't want him to get hurt, because that's your main guy on the running back side. You need him for this upcoming game against Castle. So you can kind of see how some teams might start playing not to lose as opposed to win, because they're trying to preserve the bodies. So, but yeah, they have Castle coming up. That's a big match. Thursday night football, by the way. So it's, I think Coach Gary Wirtz, after I interviewed him, he's like, "Oh, what are we, the NFL now? We got to get there." But they've played some matches on Thursday, so they're kind of used to it. So yeah, that's pretty much.
I think that game is also on TV, so that's a Thursday. That is a Thursday night football game.
But that pretty much determines the last playoff spot, because whoever wins that game will have the head-to-head tiebreaker. So that's because I think the rest of the OA is pretty much decided. Like the open division is just order of how they're gonna finish. It's open division is pretty much Kahuku, Kapolei, Campbell, and Mililani gonna make it. In Division 1, it's pretty much Waipahu, Waianae, Aiea, and Kailua. So it's in Division 2, it's Roosevelt's in there, Kalaheo's in there, Pro City's in there, and it's gonna come down to between Castle and Wailua. So that is the game that is gonna determine that fourth spot. But yeah, it's kind of you can kind of see how the rest of the OA is already. I mean, there's still seeding, right? That kind of matters, but yeah, it's kind of but the cool thing is that some teams are still being competitive, right? We saw Radford Kaiser, who's pretty much out of playoff contention, that they played to a 28-21 game on Friday night, I believe, or Saturday night. Can't remember which one it was. So teams are still have a lot to play for. There's still pride to play for. There's still some teams that are having homecoming. You still got to go out there and play the game, right? And we have a big game this Friday night against Farrington hosting Campbell. I think that's going to be Farrington's last game. It seems like they're going to miss the playoffs, but they have nothing to lose, right? And that's sometimes a scary thing, right? They just got beat by Kahuku, Kalihi, Farrington. There's a very prideful team, so we'll have that on our airwaves on Friday night on Hawaii Sports Radio Network. So go on and check that out. But yeah, we have a lot of stuff coming up. I think we have another game next weekend. Kalani versus Kalaheo, which Kalani is pretty much eliminated from the playoffs, but it's their last home game, their last game of the season. They're going to want to come out and kind of like put some spoiler to Kalaheo.
Yeah.
So there's still, OA sports, and you never know what can happen. It's any given Friday night, any given Saturday night, or just like how it's any given Sunday in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. Any given Sunday at the NFL. And like we mentioned in hour number 1, this past NFL Sunday was crazy. But we are going to take a break, and we will get back to the NFL when we come back and talk a little bit more about Dylan Gabriel's NFL starting debut that happened at 3:30 a.m. Hawaii time, in which I was up, and my sleep schedule was all thrown off. I think I took like 3 naps on yesterday after waking up at 3:30 to watch live that Dylan Gabriel game as for leading the Browns. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back to chat about Dylan Gabriel and also let you hear a snippet of what he had to say in the postgame on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ulei Agbayani and Michael Lescaro on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel this and every Monday morning. So thank you guys for hanging out with us, either it's on air or listening on demand, or of course on our YouTube. We got a shout out by a Sean T on the YouTube chat, noticing your Waipahu gear that you are wearing this morning, Michael, saying go Marauders. So yes, go Marauders. As anyone that's new here, I am a Waipahu girl. I went to Mililani High School. That is where I grad from, but I am born and raised and from Waipahu. So I too, and my parents graduated from Waipahu. So I am the Waipahu High School, and the Marauders will always have a special place in my heart for sure. But yeah, shout out to Michael wearing, and you got a go Marauders shout out on the YouTube chat.
Yeah, well, the Marauders, that was a drunk game they had on Friday night. I kind of wish I actually went. I didn't expect it to be. I mean, I knew Waipahu was going to win, but I didn't expect both teams to combine for over 100 points between Waipahu and Nanakula. The final score was 66-43.
Woo!
So, I mean, there were touchdowns galore in that game, which is kind of bad if you're Waipahu. Like, you definitely don't want to give up that many points. But I guess if you're going to score 66 points, then why not, right? Put on a show for homecoming. But yeah, go Marauders. I mean, I kind of realized I was going to be talking about Wailua while I was wearing this hoodie, so I was like, oh, shucks.
It's okay, they're not in the same division for football. So
they're not in the same division for football, yes. But if we wanted to repurpose this video for any purposes, probably not, because I'm wearing a Waipahu hoodie, so oops.
Again, a different division for football. So if we're talking about football, I think it's okay, and you just got to put like a little disclaimer in the social post that Michael is a Waipahu grad, so that's why he's repping the Marauders. I am wearing very much a neutral outfit today, or I guess a more football inspired outfit. I do have a brand new shirt. I don't know when it's going to be released, but if you guys notice, it says the Chase game on it, and it kind of has like this Vegas design theme as well. And it says established 1909, which was like the first UH football game, obviously pre like TV where there was like really the Chase game thing, but nonetheless UH football inspired, and of course my UH hat. So I will let you know if and when these Chase games nice little shirts are available, because so far it seems to be on the talk of the town as the word starts to get out, just because it's a fun shirt. All right. Speaking of, but going into an early morning game, a game that started probably a lot of bettors out there in their Sunday morning, the Cleveland Browns and Minnesota Vikings in London. Again, Sunday morning, 3:30 a.m. I think I went to bed on Saturday. Good thing our football game started early and ended like on time, because I think I was able to get to bed before midnight. Set my alarm, and I did, in fact, get up at like 3:28, just in time to turn on the TV. And I literally turned on the TV right as, or like got to the NFL Network right as Dylan Gabriel was like going out to the football field and about to take his first snap. So it was perfect. I'm like, I made it just in time to see it. He looked very poised and composed, like didn't try to do too much, and definitely didn't turn over the football, which is huge, because sometimes you don't know, especially making that trek and that travel to London. It wasn't a true home game, even though the Browns were the designated home team. Again, not the final result they wanted. It was a 21-17 loss, but I thought Dylan looked good, like and a lot of social media did as well, which was, although Ryan Clark said he looked good, so you can only take that so much, because I don't know what Ryan Clark's opinions are these days. It's all over the place. But again, he did look solid. I think it says a lot when a new quarterback, a rookie quarterback, getting their first start, sometimes the nerves get the better of them, and then you make like too many boneheaded mistakes and you turn over the football and all things go wrong for a rookie quarterback. But 19 for 33, 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mentioned this fun stat earlier in that Vikings defense is tough. And like that was a very tough defense for Dylan to go up against in his first NFL start. And Dylan was the first quarterback this season so far. Again, only week 5, but nonetheless, we will brag about it until we can't anymore. That Dylan is the first quarterback this season to throw more than one touchdown against this Vikings defense. So 2 touchdowns for Dillon Gabriel, and that has been the most touchdowns so far against the Vikings. So again, season is still early, but we will take that and brag about it for as long as we can for our Dillon Gabriel.
Yeah, and I want to put a pushback on Caesar in their YouTube chat saying, "Oh yeah, send Dillon to the Packers or let him go to the UFL." I'm like, no, he's fine at Cleveland, right? And I think for the Browns, there definitely was positives, right? Because this Browns team, I think they turned it over 8 times in the last 4 games, so they were averaging 2 turnovers a game. So just to have none of that in this game against the Vikings, that's a positive start. He did throw that touchdown pass to Njoku to go up 17-14 in the third quarter. So definitely that was some positive to see. But, definitely there's still a lot to build on, right? We're going to hear from him a bit, but definitely you want to see some kind of points put up in the fourth quarter. So maybe now that he's kind of got this first one out of his belt, that maybe we can see him maybe take a bit more chances, maybe a bit more risk after he's already kind of got this one under his belt right now. Like, hey, the team kind of trusts you. You don't have to go out and look over his shoulder, that you can't hear him speak. But yeah, it's a lot to build on. And kind of sucks that we didn't have that Marcus didn't start as well. We could have got 3 starting quarterbacks.
I know.
But at the end of the day, also 2 lost too, right? So it kind of sucks. But yeah.
All right. Well, this is, again, even though we were all excited and it almost felt like a moral victory to us Hawaii fans watching all the way over here in Hawaii, cheering for the local boy, a loss is a loss in the NFL. And you could tell, like a true starting quarterback fashion, that Dillon's demeanor, like he took that loss hard. Like, as much as we want to celebrate, he got his first start, yada, yada, yada. I liked that he had that demeanor of taking that loss really hard, because he, by the foreseeable future, he is going to be QB1, because they didn't just say that this is a temporary thing. They said Joe Flacco is benched, which means that he is going to remain secondary or maybe a third stringer. We'll see how that goes in the future. But for now, Dillon is QB1, and he took that loss like a starting quarterback. So here is a snippet of what Dillon had to say in the postgame.
I think I learned little details, definitely was ready for that, but all the details come down to it, and I think in any game you're going to want 4 to 5 plays back. Of course, the result will feel different, and maybe your 4 to 5 plays may feel different, but that's the game we live and play in. So got to be better in those 4 to 5 plays is what and why you continue to work as hard as you do. Yeah, I think there's always something to build on. No moral victories whatsoever, but I think regardless of result, week to week, there's a process, and more time you spend around anyone, you're going to get more continuity, and that's QB to receiver, that's QB to running back, that's us as a whole unit coming together really, and getting comfortable with our unit.
And that was a little snippet from QB1 of the Cleveland Browns, and of course a Mililani High School product in Dillon Gabriel, what he had to say post-game following that loss to the Vikings on Sunday. But looking ahead, though, again, all indication is that he is the starting quarterback for the Browns moving forward. And I think he deserved that. Again, not trying to do too much, but like Michael said, and I agree, that now that he has that first game under his belt, and depending on the type of defense and their opponent that they play, he might start to take a little bit more risk. But I think this was a solid starting game for him, not trying to do too much. We saw that happen with Tua Tagovailoa, right? Like when he first got into the NFL, it's just he always wanted to make the big plays, and sometimes that would leave him getting hurt, or it would just lead to turnovers. So I think overall this was a quality start for Dillon, where the Browns could have that faith in him that he is doing enough that he needs to do as a starting quarterback, and the rest of the team needs to take care of it, including the defense. But looking ahead at their future schedule, up next they play at Pittsburgh, which I think is going to be a, maybe, I don't want to say easier game, but the Vikings, to me, so far this season are a better team than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, Mike Tomlin, though, a very good coach on the Steelers side, but this will be an interesting game. But looking ahead even further, Michael, after the Steelers, you got a matchup with the Miami Dolphins. So Hawaii versus Hawaii, quarterback crime potentially in a couple of weeks, which that will be very interesting. And like you were saying with Marcus, Jaden Daniels getting back in there for the Commanders and Marcus not getting that start this past weekend. We didn't get the awesome 3 Hawaii starting quarterbacks starting on the same day. But nonetheless, this will be interesting if Dillon Gabriel can hold tight to that starting position, which I believe he can. And we're going to get a Tua versus Dillon matchup in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, that works out perfectly for me because the Rams play at 3:30 in the morning before that, so I could just go right into that game. But I mean, I think the Steelers game, they might surprise, and I think they might beat the Steelers, right? I mean, I know for those that playing Survivor, if you need to play risky, I feel like these divisional games, the underdogs always are going to show up. So if you never know when you want to pick the Browns in your Survivor League, I would pick the Browns this week against the Steelers.
Ooh, okay. But there's your bold prediction from Michael, and there you have it. Take it as you must. Again, we are not professionals and cannot be held responsible for anything that happens in your betting purposes or your Survivor leagues, but we still like to put out our predictions there because what's the fun? Like, it's fun to do so because if we're ever right, then like I always say, it's fun to just kind of mention it. Let me see. I'm trying to look for the odds. All right. So the Browns, again, the game is at Pittsburgh. Browns 1-4, Steelers 3-1. Browns are getting 5. So the 5-point underdog going over to Pittsburgh are the Cleveland Browns and Dillon Gabriel. Not a lot of scoring anticipated in this game, with the total being set at 37.5 at the moment. This is one that if I was in Vegas, just because of the whole Dillon Gabriel thing, I would probably sprinkle a little bit on the money line. As you mentioned, divisional games, you just never know what's going to happen. I mean, look what happened with the Bills yesterday, losing to the Patriots. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen. But the Browns are plus 195 on the money line. So that might deserve a little sprinkle if I was in Vegas right now. Or if Paul put in the futures bet, you can put in your bet now and then cash it out later when you go back home, which is what I always like to do when I go to Vegas. I put in some futures bets, come back, and by the time I go to Vegas, I can cash a ticket and start my betting all over again.
I think Rodgers is gonna play it safe. I think he doesn't want to get killed against Myles Garrett. So I definitely think the Browns can get it done against the Steelers. The Steelers, they're hot and cold, right? They had to pretty much go down to the wire against the Jets, who we've seen is not a good team. Sorry, Paul, if you're still watching. But yeah, so I think the Browns might have a shot against the Steelers. I mean, the Steelers are due for a loss. The Browns are due for a win, and I'd rather see Dillon get a win against the Browns and get that under his belt. That way, when they play the Dolphins, it could go either way, right? So, yeah, I mean, the cool thing about Dillon too is he's got fans. I mean, or he's played all across the country, right? Mm-hmm. He played in Hawaii, that's for sure. Then he played in Florida, Oklahoma. So he went from the far southeast to maybe the central south, right? In that area. Then he went to Oregon, so he's in the Pacific Northwest. And now he's in Cleveland, which is the Midwest, but it's more north. So he's probably got fans from all over. So that's kind of cool to see. So I think Dillon will be fine at Pittsburgh. He played in London, so it's
and he played fine.
Yeah, he played fine. So I think Dillon just gotta take a little bit more risk. Maybe use his legs a little bit more. I mean, when you're Dillon size, you definitely need to use your legs to be kind of effective, or just even to get out of the pocket and kind of extend play, see what breaks down. But hopefully, with some film under him under his legs, he can go out there and shock some people. Well, hopefully that, because if Dillon gets a win against the Steelers, that means there'll be less traffic on the roads the next day because some people will be calling in sick.
By the way, speaking of his size, I know a lot of people on social media were just kept retweeting that post-game quarterback to quarterback handshake between Dillon and Carson Wentz, forgetting that Carson Wentz is a above average height human. But it did obviously Dillon is by definition undersized for an NFL quarterback, but Carson Wentz is also very tall. So, but the post-game immediate post-game quarterback to quarterback handshake was pretty funny, looking at the height differential between those two guys. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back to close it out here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani and Michael Iscaro on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel. Wrapping it up here on this Aloha Monday. That really flew by. We talked a lot of football. You heard my chat with UH Football Associate Head Coach and Linebackers Coach Chris Brown. That was in hour number 1. So if you missed it, you'll be able to listen or watch on demand a little later this morning. Closing it out here, we were talking a little bit of baseball as we had someone in here on our YouTube chat mentioning that, hey, we can join the Mariners wagon if we want to, and I will. Again, if the Cubs get knocked out, I will join the Mariners wagon. We did also have someone text that saying, or you could join the Phillies bandwagon. We have the best mascot in professional sports. I will join the Phillies bandwagon on the NL side if and when the Cubs get knocked out because of Kyle Schwarber, who is a former Cub. So I will join that, but I think overall, still rooting for the Mariners to at the very least make it to the World Series would be nice. I know for a lot of Mariners fans, and then hopefully be able to win it all. But it's been pretty crazy the first couple of days of the divisional series in baseball right now. It has been very, very tough for people like Paul and myself that are Cubs and Yankees fans. Cubs at least finally got a break yesterday, but it's very sad when you see the other team score a lot of runs to your teams, which is what happened with the Yankees and Blue Jays. And even a game like yesterday when the Yankees put up 7, the Blue Jays put up 13, but it's still a series until you lose a home game. So for the Cubs and the Yankees, fortunately, now they go back home, or at least the Yankees do anyways. If you look at the futures odds now, the Blue Jays have moved up there. So the favorite, no surprise, to win it all is still the Dodgers at plus 225. The Blue Jays, as it stands right now, have your second shortest odds at plus 350, followed by the Brewers at plus 550, the Mariners at plus 650, and the Tigers at plus 850. My Cubs are at 13-1, and Paul's Yankees are at 15-1. So we are all the way down there in the sad face. And the Phillies there are 10-1. So Michael Iscaro's team, hopefully they can go back to back, and we'll see what happens. Hasn't been done since the Yankees, though.
I mean, when you have that much money on your payroll, you need to win. We didn't even get to Monday Night Football, which is the Chiefs and the Jaguars. So I think the Jaguars might make it interesting, and we're going to have, like we do in all primetime games, we're going to have some ridiculous penalty called in favor of the Chiefs, and they're going to win on some field goal. But if you are betting, I would take the over on Trevor Lawrence rushing yards in this game.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So Paul, put in some money.
And Jags, the home team, and I think it's going to be a wonky game as well. I mean, it wouldn't go any other way considering we had a crazy Sunday. So we'll see if the Monday Night Football game today follows suit. But for now, we got to go. So for Michael Iscaro, I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani. Mahalo for listening and watching. It's been Wake Up in the Den. Bye!
Home of the Dallas Cowboys, KGUAM, K236CR, Honolulu is the